Hi, this is Mom on the right, and today is a very special show. I know I say that every show but this is a very special show. It's an important show because I'm going to get real with you. We need to talk about suicide. We need to talk about depression in the church. I have dealt with depression most of my life, and I've been pretty transparent about it, but it's not something actually I will talk about in the church. I don't hear it in the church. I don't hear my friends talk about it in the church. So you hide it. So I have been, I hide it until I got to the point where I just couldn't hide it anymore. And at this point, after 40 years old, I don't care. And it shouldn't be that way. In my case, I wasn't going to like commit suicide or anything, but I really needed help. And I was even afraid to put it on the card at church, to have people pray for me. So I want to encourage you today and really listen and get some help if you need it. We're mothers and we're living in a tough political atmosphere right now and spiritual atmosphere, and we need to talk. And so does the church. And another thing about the church I've been very upset about is that some churches believe it's your sin. It's a whole different story. I don't believe it's your sin. We all sin, and there are repercussions for your sin. I get it. But there's chemical imbalances, there's tragedies in our past and things that need to be healed. So I'm not, not buying it. So and you guys need to work on that. Not everyone, but some of you who you know who you are need to work on it. And I need to work on things anyway. But without further ado, my guest is very important, very gracious to me. And her name is Anita Wilson, and she's an author, and she's been through it. And she is on a mission, girls. But it's, you know what? We're going to need to talk about it. She's going to churches. She's getting things done. Yeah. So, ready? Let's talk to her. I'm ready for her. Yeah. I need some preaching done too. Okay? So, church, get ready. There's Anita Wilson. Anita, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So glad to be here. So glad to be here.
Where do we begin? Can you just tell us a little about your story and what you experienced, as a Christian, just being kind of afraid maybe to go to the church because of the depression and what have you?
Yeah. I've been dealing with depression since I was in my 20s, and it was really under control. But when I got into my late 40s,
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having a chronic illness that just spun out of control. And I ended up doing something really not very smart. I decided to turn to alcohol to try to help with symptoms.
Yeah, to numb it. Mm-hmm.
Didn't help with symptoms. It just made me more depressed, and I ended up drinking too much and becoming alcoholism became a part of my life, and that just sucked me down into this big spiral where there was a suicide attempt. And I was a part of a great church, but I still felt like I needed to hide. I needed to hide where I was. I needed to not let anybody know because I was too ashamed. I was just too ashamed to let people know that I had gotten to this terrible point in my life. I was ashamed of the alcoholism, and I was ashamed of the depression too. So.
And like not only the shame, and the shame of you're doing wrong, but you're also dealing something with probably your hormonal at 40.
Yeah.
You're probably dealing with other things that were there, like you said, childhood, and it's chemical too. And can you tell me, it's like, when did you come to the point where you're like, okay, church, we need to discuss this. I have nobody to go to. I got to pay a psychologist to help me sort this out. And I know you're not supposed to be my psychiatrist, but
right.
I'm alone here. What did you do? What are you doing to break those barriers and break through?
What I'm doing right now is I didn't really realize how much of a taboo it was in the church until fairly recently, honestly.
Yeah.
And as I was going through my own struggles, I ran across people that were telling me, you just don't have enough faith. If your faith were stronger,
yes,
then you would not be so depressed.
Yes.
Or you need to find joy in the Lord, because He's where your joy comes from. And I also got some advice that said, if you speak it, it will come into your life. So don't even talk about it, because if you speak it, you'll make it true.
That's what I heard. You don't talk about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it came to my attention, my own church that I was in was not so bad. I mean, I was able to talk to friends that were close to me eventually after I overcame my own shame. Yeah. But then as I continued to become more and more aware of other people, as I started to share my story, I started to realize that was not the norm in churches around the country. Yeah. In fact, in the general population, mental illness is accepted more than what it is accepted within the church. Yeah. And I find that very sad. I call it the no casserole disease. So anybody else in the hospital for a physical illness, if you go into the hospital for a mental illness, you don't get any casseroles from the welcoming committee when you get home from the hospital. Right. People don't want to talk about it, so they just kind of don't serve you in the same way that you would be served if it were a physical illness that you went through.
Where does that come from? And they think you're just because of the crazy part. People think you're crazy, and that goes back years and years and years. You know, when they institutionalize people for things like that. I mean,
I think it does. I think there's that, and I think it's because people still feel really awkward talking about it. They don't know whether it's a faith issue or a health issue, and trying to make that delineation between whether it's a health issue or a faith issue leads people to just not do anything and not say anything. And right. So what I've been trying to do is let's just open up the discussion. Let's just talk about what mental illness is. And let's talk about it as if it was the same thing as if you had diabetes. You know, you have to take medication if you are a diabetic. Yeah. And if you have clinical depression, you have to take medication and some therapy in order to help you with that. Your brain is a physical part of your body, and that right. brain is not functioning in the way it's supposed to be functioned, not the way God created it to be. You know, when sin entered the world with Adam and Eve, it broke the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that includes our mental health. And if we can just start talking about it more, and maybe we can get the church to become to the same point of awareness that the rest of the world is. Catch the church up a little bit to where the rest of the world is at.
We got a lot of catching up, girl.
Yes.
Not even just the church, because I'm not going to bash the church, because I don't want to have to be convicted after this show. But yeah, we do have a lot. Even as a neighbor, as a friend, as a husband and wife, personally, I can't talk to my husband about that. He doesn't understand depression. He doesn't understand. And I think a lot of things that people just don't understand. They just think it's like a hormone thing, or you got your
neuroreceptors.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the most frustrating thing, even in the workplace.
It's shocking. The statistics are shocking. 1 in 5 people deal with a mental illness. That means 20% of the congregation, of any congregation, 20% of the people that are there are dealing with some kind of mental illness. Yeah. I wrote an open letter to pastors, and posted it on my blog and posted it on my Facebook. Are you really reaching all of your congregation? 20% of the people sitting in your congregation need to hear that there's hope. And they need to hear that there's help. And they need to be ministered to.
What are you hearing from them in general? Are you getting good feedback, or?
Well, one of the things that I am actually excited about is that in the Christian world, there is a movement. It's a small movement, but it's there.
Okay.
And it's called the Inclusion Ministry. Yes. And it is including people with mental health. And so there are mental health services and mental health awareness that is popping up in different churches around the world right now. One of the big impetus for that to start was with the suicide of Rick Warren's son.
Yes. Yeah.
And because of that suicide, people are becoming more and more aware. And so, you know, bless that family, that suicide has spurred on people to say, you know what, mental health is a big issue. It needs to be looked at.
Yes.
And you can save lives as well as save souls.
So that's encouraging.
It is.
It's where do you see the church going from here? I mean, you know, we talk. You know, I was talking to someone the other day about, you know, abortion. They don't want to talk about abortion, and suicide. That's another taboo subject. So what's your mission to be like, hey, this is what I want to talk about at the church? How open are they to your message?
It's been mixed. Yeah, there are some. The church that I attend is actually very open to my message. The church that I attend does a lot
That's awesome. Okay.
Of mental health inclusion.
Okay.
But I either get no response or a negative response from pastors on that when it comes to that open letter. So I haven't had very much positive response from that at all.
Okay.
I don't know that it's because they don't care. I don't think it's that. I just think that something that they just are not sure what to do about it. They don't know where to start. And I think that it starts with awareness. Right. That would be one message that I would say. It starts with awareness and realize that you've got 20% of your congregation that is suffering. And the next thing I think that needs to happen within the church is to create some kind of just a simple group where people can get together and just talk about mental illness. Because if 20% of the people are living with it, then that means that their families are impacted by it as well. Mm-hmm. So you've got people who are suffering as well as the caregivers of those people.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's like, you know, like, again, like when we don't want to talk about that. You know, we want to go to church for dessert. However, I like dessert all the time, but in my coffee, but I understand that I got to get meat, and I have this. These are issues that are not going to go away. I feel sometimes that the world is a little bit more accepting than the church, and the people of the church, because of that sin issue. You're not doing enough. You're not reading enough of the Bible. You're not doing enough, and I think people then start isolating themselves. What would you recommend, or how would you help someone that is going through that? They feel so isolated. They might be tempted to start drinking more than usual. Take the edge off, you know.
I can't remember how many times it is in the Bible now. I used to know, but I know that it's in the Bible a lot. The phrase "be strong and courageous," and it kind of breaks down to two different things. Strength. The strength that's talking about there is not our own strength. It's not strength that we have within ourselves. It's the strength that comes from God. Right. And it's what God infuses into your life. And so we don't have, when it says to be strong and courageous, we don't have to stand in our own strength. And the word courage, the root word of that word is cur, and that means heart. So in the original definition of the word courage, it meant to express yourself with your whole heart. Yeah. Express yourself with your whole heart. So in order to be courageous, that means taking off all the masks that you're wearing. And yes, it is taboo in the church, but unless we come out of hiding and start to talk about it ourselves, we're not going to make any kind of a change either. So it's a mutual relationship between those of us who suffer with mental illness and the church being accepted. So we have to come out, and my encouragement to other people would be to be strong and courageous, to take the mask off and quit hiding yourself, because when you hide, you create this darkness around you, and the things that grow in the dark are slimy and moldy and smelly things. Yeah. But if we can expose light and allow ourselves to have some light come into those dark places in our souls, then those smelly, slimy things can start to die away. So it's so hard. It's so easy to say, and so hard for people to do. So hard for people to do.
Yeah, because it can be it's a life struggle for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
You know, to be quite honest. Are you seeing, you know, of course, with the political climate, the way the world is going, are you seeing a spike in mental illness? Are you seeing like more people more agitated? I am. We're just more mean people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, I I've been shocked by the statistics.
I live
And
on the road. I was like, people are just horribly angry.
they really are. They really are angry and anxious and afraid.
And afraid.
Um, One of the things that's shocking as far as the suicide statistic, um, it is the number one killer of men, of white men, from the ages of 18 to 65. So if you take the whole range of adult white male men,
Yeah.
suicide is the number one killer. Another statistic that's shocking is that 18 to 22 vets take their life every day.
Yeah, that's gotta, we gotta do something
And,
with that too.
and you know, we just can't, so as far as being on the increase, yes, suicide is on the increase.
More that it's beating out homicide. Isn't that true?
Yes, yes.
Outpacing homicides. It's just, it's,
There's so much hate and so much
oh my gosh.
intolerance in the
Thank
world.
Thank
In this world where we're told to be tolerant,
hmm
we're not tolerant
No, we're not.
unless you agree with me.
I have road rage. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things. People are intolerant and inconsiderate, and it just, you know, it just feels like this atmosphere of, it's just not pretty. And it's not just at church, it's just outside the church. And, you know, we put our little pretty faces on when we go to the church and we pretend to have it together. So no, thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't have any stats to back that, but I'll just get just my general, especially after the election, people just are just hate people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that spurs on depression because I was getting angry. That was like just feeding the monster.
Yes, the monster. Yep.
You know, and so where do you go from here? What's your next project, or what are you working on now?
Well, I actually have just become a new chaplain, and yes, I'm excited about it. My very first ever chaplain meeting is tomorrow, and out of that, I just feel like there's this call on my heart, especially to be a chaplain to people who are suffering from mental illness.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. It's such a novelty.
Yeah. And luckily, the church that I'm in has a counseling center.
Okay.
And they have a small group that meets for not only for people who deal with mental health issues, but also for their caregivers.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of different things at my church. And that means that there is an avenue for me to plug into and be able to be a chaplain to those people. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I just became an ordained minister. So it's all new for me. It's all
it's amazing.
I started out with writing the book and then taking all these other little steps. It's had some education added to that, and then became ordained. And now I'm a chaplain. So I'm excited to see where God is going to use me in the lives of these people. I call them aliases.
Yes.
Because of what we talked about before, about how we want to hide and isolate ourselves. And these are alias people who are living an alias life. And I want to be there for alias people. And because I was an alias myself.
And you're flourishing, and it's such a, you know, like you said, when you're going through it, you're like, yeah, I don't know how I think I could come out of it, but you're just like, you're very radiant, like you're off the screen, and because of what you're doing. This is going to change people's lives, because all I know is to drop money to see a therapist and be like, okay, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And that gets very expensive. People should do therapy. I don't want anyone saying or emailing me, oh, you said don't do that. No, I'm thinking in conjunction with the church and working and doing groups.
Right.
I'm going to be doing. People need to do whatever, have every resource they need, and just be real. Be like, yeah, dude, I'm glad you're talking about happiness today, but man, this kind of sucks right now. So, so you're going to be starting that group. Are you thinking about doing more chapters around the country, or you're like, hold on a minute?
Yeah, I haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay.
One of the, because I have a chronic illness, I have some limitations on what I can do physically.
Understandable. I
So
get it.
one of the things that I've been thinking about is doing something called what the school I went to calls a chat chaplaincy, which would be an online chaplain. So then I would be able to be available at when I'm physically able to be available, I would be able to be available to people.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that dream goes, but it's a dream that there could be chaplains around for people to just reach out to, and at any time that they need them, just reach out through some kind of an app or through the internet somehow, and seek help.
And finally, thank you. There is no pressure in that suggestion, by the way. But finally, what would you say to the churches in general, in America, all over the world? What would you say to them about suicide, depression, mental illness? What would you say?
You know, Jesus said that blessed are the poor in spirit.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to realize that there are a lot of people that are poor in spirit, and that we need to bless them, not malign them, not ignore them. I think what's going on is not necessarily this any kind of dislike or hatred or anything like that. I don't think it's that.
I don't think so.
People don't know what to do. They don't know how to react and what to say. And so I would say, bless the people that you know of that are poor in spirit, and open up avenues of communication. It's okay. In fact, I'm certified in suicide prevention, and one of the things that it's important to know is that if someone is suicidal, that you talk to them about suicide. It seems like it would be the opposite. It seems like you wouldn't even mention it. Don't mention that because you might make them think. But no, what they need is to be able to talk about suicide and their suicidal thoughts. And it's the same way with people who are dealing with depression.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be able to talk about their depression. And if you know someone that is going through it, it's okay to ask them, hey, how are you doing today? How are you really doing today? You know, and give them a safe place to talk, and it just starts with communication.
Some powerful stuff, and it's going to be interesting to see how things change with the movement and the inclusion ministry. And I think once that takes place and catches fire, and just educating people.
Yes.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. It takes real guts to do what you're doing, to get out here and just give everybody your story and what you went through. And I really applaud you. And that's not flattery, it's the truth. That's just fact. So thank you. And hopefully we can reach some people to be like, oh, okay, let's do something. Let's start a group. Let's do something.
Yeah.
And let's hope the next election people don't fall apart.
Right.
That's a whole different story, Anita.
Yes.
Unbelievable. But thank you so much for coming to the show, and keep in touch with us. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.